Good morning and welcome back everyone. How are you guys doing? It's been a while since I posted a video. Um, just a minute. So I also realized that while I was away, a lot of things I didn't take care of. I added some few codes here, which is not appropriate that much. But anyway, I'll just explain what I did. So in the previous tutorial, I was able to I was able to were able to cover up to writing the first test of our blog app. That went well. Just a moment. Um, that pretty much went well. So if you come here to develop branch, you'll realize like I've really added a lot of things. My last commit was actually 3 days ago, so I've actually added a lot of things. I've added user authentication inside these. Some few things I've also changed inside here. So if you go inside v1, inside models, yes, if you go inside models and you go to auth models, you'll realize I've actually added some few codes inside here. Yeah, the reason is I felt lazy, and where I was I couldn't record. I couldn't record the video out. Also I couldn't live stream it. I didn't have internet at all. I wasn't having my machine as well, so I just cloned it into another repository and started coding it up. So that's what happened. So in this tutorial I'll be going through to explain what each and every line does. Then I'll be able to go ahead and run this specific code. I'll also be able to justify the reason why some things are not working and some things are working currently, and what we can expect in the future for this app to really come out. So let's probably dig in. But meanwhile, guys, in case you have not subscribed to this YouTube tutorial, make sure that you subscribe so that at least you get a clear understanding of what's happening and why it's happening, and what remedies are we having for it to happen. So yeah, that in place, guys, let's take a look at what changed. So in my previous tutorial I was able to come and write up to the few tests, a few tests in the test auth. I think I basically changed the name. As you guys notice, and this version that I have here is very much different from the version that I even have in my GitHub repository. Reason being that so some few things have changed. When I tried to write the test and write the endpoint and try to fixing the test, I realized a bunch of things could not really work out. Part of the things that really happened was the fact that so this application does not provide for user registration. Okay. Also, the fact that it doesn't provide for user registration, I didn't have a registration endpoint yet. So that specific endpoint that will be called to register a user. So I currently doesn't have that specific endpoint, and that poses one risk, and that poses one problem, that I cannot log in a user. So right now, I was just testing if a user could log in, and here is the error. It's saying instead of saying success, it's getting the user details that you are trying to sign up is not yet found. So meaning I actually doesn't have these user details in my database. The reason being, it's you guys can understand that I have not ready like I've not yet registered this specific user, so my test cannot really go ahead and pass. And the fact that I cannot do login means that I cannot even test for so I can actually test for unregistered user. That one I think I can actually test for, but I cannot test for logout because the logout require an authentication token, which to me I was going to generate it after the login here. So that really poses as a risk of making this test pass at this specific time. The only remedy for this is if I build a user registration endpoint and work on it much further to see how it's really going to work out for us. So basically that is it. It's not supposed to be part of the test.auth here. It's not supposed to be auth models. It's not supposed to be part of the auth models, because auth model generally deals with logins and registration. So that's the reason why I actually flagshipped it back, so that at least I could get a chance to explain it to you guys before I actually go ahead and try to do something that would make the entire application get complicated before you guys clearly understand it. Meanwhile, let's probably try to dig in and get a better understanding on what I have in each and every specific line of code and why I'm actually having them. So the first thing when working uh, with models, I want to start from explaining models. Is there's a concept of separating models for each and every specific module. So like right now, you can see that I have auth models and I have comments models, I have base models, then I have users models. So the auth models will be dealing with user registration, authentication. No, it will be dealing with user login and authentication. So logout and everything. So that is what I'll be having in the auth model. But then there's this thing we call the base model. So the base model contains those specific methods that are universal across all the models. So for example, if I say user update item, so update item is a special type of model that I can actually keep on calling each and every time to make sure that any specific item I give it is actually gets updated. So this is very important, guys, to understand that when you have specific models that kept on to be called, like update, I'll need to update a user, update a record, update a comment, update an incident, and etc. All those are actually I just keep on calling the update item method, and they basically keep on updating. The same to delete. The another thing which is to check if it exists, because I don't want to post redundant details. I just have to check if that specific detail exists. So something like that, I need to come up here and make sure that I put it inside the system. Then the thing something like encoding the token and decoding the token. And blacklist, I know you should not be here, but the fact that it's being used by decoding the token, I actually put it part of this, and you can basically see this takes in a static method. In case you don't know what a static method is, guys, please I advise you to go to kenyatech.com. So go to kenyatech.com. You'll understand. I've just written a new blog that explains different types of methods that we have in Python. We have static method, we have class methods, and then we have instance methods. So if you just click here, if you just click here if you just click here, you'll get a clear, not just a brief one, but you'll get a clear and difference between each and every specific method that we have in Python. So I had static methods here. So guys, please go ahead and take a read. In case you have a question, feel free to leave the question behind. I'll be able to reach out and probably give feedback on that or give more clarification. So the fact that whatever I have here, guys, is something that I'm actually able to use to give a clear understanding of what happens when you want to decode a token, what happens when you want to encode a token. So when you want to encode a token, what I use is the ID number. Right now I'm just using the ID number, but then I'll definitely demystify this much further to include ID number and the user role. So the user role is also one of the most important things that I need to put here, so that I make sure that in case the user role is not admin, you cannot perform some other specific things when I check it. So that's like super important. But then right now what I just needed to do is to make sure that I'm just encoding the token and recording the token. So to encode a token, I need expiry date, which I generate from the timestamp I imported. Then this is the user ID, which I'm actually putting inside here. There's another thing. Then I just call the jwt.encode to do for me the entire thing. Remember, I have to import JWT, and for me to import JWT, I have to install PyJWT. All those are already in my code base. Then there's the blacklist. So the blacklist is used so that when I have when I log out, I insert the token into the blacklist. Okay, so when I log out, I insert a token into the blacklist, the blacklist table. So to check when the token is being decoded, it checks first of all if that specific token is part of what has been blacklisted, and that's why you're actually seeing that I'm actually checking it inside here. So that is very much important, guys, and I really encourage you guys to check it out how it works. So this one here checks if it exists. I don't know whether it was multiple and everything. Then those are like special classes, and this one definitely special method. Then this one definitely closes the ID. Please feel free to ask any question on what happens in the base models class. Then now I can go to the auth model. So you'll definitely understand how the auth model works. The fact that you now have a clear idea of what the other thing does. So I commented out the save user method because it could have been used when we were inserting the user records, but right now you guys basically understand that I've said that is on hold because a user cannot self-register. For a user to register, that endpoint has to be done by the admin user, but not any other specific user. That will definitely take into detail while logging out some other specific things. But I had the logout and then I had the login. So this is what I was using for the login. Login is not something which is pretty much hard, guys, to understand. Especially to me, I'm like, this is probably the simplest thing to understand. I just select user first name, last name, password, and ID name. Okay, I was even selecting the role here as well. Then when I go to the auth user, the auth view. When I go to the auth view, kindly allow me to pause the video as I had to pick up some call. So as I was explaining, I don't know where I was. As I was explaining, so when you go to the auth views, so the authentication views, and this is now the most critical part, and because there are actually just a lot of things here that I didn't actually get a chance to explain for you guys. I think most probably you will not get a clear understanding of the structure of this code. I think let me just come honest and be clear to you guys that the application I'm developing is not for somebody who's learning Flask for the first time, because maybe if this is your second or third Flask application, you'll understand how majorly most of these things works. But then right now at the moment, it's not like it's not like something that would I mean, it's not like something that you'd probably take time to basically get yourself acquitted with, and basically things like that. But anyway, long story short, the first thing that I do is to import everything that I use. I've imported my exceptions. I've imported generating and hashing password. I think check hash. I don't know. Maybe whether I really use this, but did I really use this? Yeah. So I did not use this here, so I can actually do away with it in this file. But one thing which stands out inside here is I go to auth models and import the user model. Actually, I should call this um, auth model, so that at least we have a clear understanding and separation based on what we are actually doing. So allow me just to go to auth model back and name this auth model, so that at least separate, because I'll be having the user model as well, things that the user can actually do. So they're like very much important to put into that specific basis. So if I go back to my views, I was just trying to explain what happens. So the first thing that I import is that, then I go to I don't know whether I should have also called this the auth. Most of these codes I copy pasted them. The fact that I had basically done them previously, so it is very easy to do. But I import some two things. I go to the serializers and I import the entire class. So let me just take you guys to the serializers, what it does. So what happens with the serializers is the fact that I'm actually able to use marshmallow, something like that. It's like a form of validation that uses Flask++. I tell it what I'm actually expecting, and what I'm also, so the expecting thing, for example, I expect ID and password when I'm actually logging in a user. So I give you, like, for example, at login request, I expect ID and password. So right now, if I don't provide ID and password when I'm running the code, it will tell me password is missing, in case password is missing. So it's already like, it's just a matter of setting the expectation and living up to that expectation, more or less like what. But this is like a form of validation that happens, so it's just this specific type of validation. So for example, this is a login request, then there is a login response. this is what I use to validate. So there's another thing that I have another endpoint called validate user. Then this is a registration request. Unfortunately, something is actually telling me to change this from user to auth. Something is telling me to change this from user to auth. Then I can actually have a class called user DTO data object. So it's just data data transfer objects. I'm just defining data transfer objects. Then I'll just say here so fact that I have that one there, I'm just gonna put this one here. It's important that we are actually aligned on every basic thing that we are actually doing. So yes, now that I have this user, so I'll definitely go ahead and explain this what happens later on when I'm getting to use it. So this one I've just changed, and when I come to my auth here, so instead of use ANPI is equals to auth.dto, I'll just so it's auth.dto data transfer objects. Yeah. So I just go ahead and import this. Then I have my validation function here that does for my validation. How it works, I'm definitely going to explain it. Then when at sign in, I'm using Flask Express, so this is the route that I'll be calling at sign in. Then I'm planning to use Swagger API documentation, so I'm definitely using something we call document strings, or most probably call the docu strings. I tell this specific endpoint, this post endpoint, that expect the login user. So the login user, if you come here, I expect this login user, and the login user, it's like auth.dto then user. And let me just take you guys back to see how this thing works. Auth.dto user, you see. So this is it. So this is at login, this is what you expect. Okay, then expect that. While expecting that, also when you get the response, marshal it or keep that response with this specific thing, with this user response. And when you go back to serializers, user response is equals to this. So the response for a successful user will be that. I think that's all. Then this is definitely the decision. Then I can actually just go ahead and write my specific endpoint. How to validate, and once I put up everything that I want to validate inside this, I'm just gonna say validate. I call my validation function login data, so I pass for it this dictionary of data that I already have here. So when it passes here, it's when I call this function, it will be like it checks for. So when you use user.items, it separates a dictionary into two, into both key and value. So for key and value, in user.item, so user.item is what definitely separates them. If there is no value, please erase this. So like this specific thing is missing. If the key is equals to this and or this, check if the length is equals to this or to this. So that is basically what I was trying to do for the specific values and passwords that I was actually receiving. Then I check for so basically I'm getting user by ID. If there is no record, I'm saying okay, fine, there is not that specific inside what you're basically looking for. But if there is, I'm just putting everything together, and take up the token, I encode it up, and yeah, basically that's I'm done. Then marshal up the response with what I definitely expect. The same thing is what I'll be doing for the sign out. So the sign out is what we have for the logout thing. So but then the difference here is this one expects an authorization header, and that is most probably the most different things, because this one, if it looks for the authorization header, and you just say request dot headers dot get authorization. If there's no authorization header, raise this. So this can be, is this a bad request? This should be unauthorized. So instead of saying return this, I can definitely just come here and say uh, raise um, unauthorized. So raise unauthorized. Then I'll just provide what I'm actually unauthorizing. So I'm here, I'm just saying that the authorization header is actually missing. So I'll just come here and say that the authorization is actually missing. So instead of writing the return statements, I'm just raising this error. But then anyway, if it gets, I'm splitting it because usually bearer, then access token. So I split it where there's a space. That's why you are actually seeing there's an empty space here. Then I text in the second one. So when you split, it gets indexed as an array. So the first one is a 0, then the second one, which is now the access token, as the index 1. So I take in the index 1 and then decode it. What do I expect? So when I actually decode the thing, I expect that it should be an integer. What should I expect? Should it be an integer or a value? I expect that it is an I've not really even tested this whether it works or it doesn't work, but then anyway, whichever thing that it expects. But then if instance response is equals to a string, yeah, I actually expect it to be a string. So if the instance is a string, go ahead and log out the user. So I'm just calling so I think this should not be here. Okay, sorry, this one should be here. If the instance is a string, it should actually do this, but else if it's not a string, go ahead and decode the token and log out the user successfully. And by logging out the user, it means I'm definitely just calling the logout user, which inserts it into our blacklist database. So that's very simple explained. Then now I had this test endpoint, which it's nearly the same thing. So the same thing that I have here, testing up everything here, is what I did into this. And I was trying a different thing of building up a decorator instead of just coming up with something else. I went ahead and just built up a decorator, which I wanted to try it out. So instead of having all these lots of things here, I built up a decorator called the author required thing. So the author required thing, what it definitely checks, it imports this from here, and it checks for whether a user. So the other one was not actually should not be unauthorized. The other one should probably a bad request. I'm not like so sure. If I don't provide the authorization header, it means I'm sending in a bad request. It's not unauthorized. It should be a bad request. What I have here shouldn't be unauthorized. Should be a bad request. Yes. Then the rest of them should be unauthorized. So what I have here. So this is what we need to have as unauthorized. Unauthorized. Sorry, guys. Yeah, so this is now the unauthorized. The other one was something else. So this is what I was just telling you. Like if you register a handlers, you don't have to give more say, hey, return, make response, JSONify, and etc. So when you just register them, you just keep on calling them, and basically know what you're actually using. So I built this. I went ahead and built this decorator, the auth required, which takes in the function tools, and basically that's it. I'm not like so sure with how I should actually explain this much further, so that it basically suits this. Like I said, I've not tested this code currently, so I'll go ahead and run my code and test it out and see if there's an error. So let's run. Please, sorry, there is some packages here, renaming things like those are like I install a bunch of things that were totally unnecessary. I'll be able to fix them when you guys are actually seeing here. So right now when I want to log in, I have already my build request. So wow, what's up? What's up? Okay. So when I go to my serializers, when how did I name it? How did I name it? I'm actually trying to wonder how did I name this. Um, line 13. Oh, okay. Um, yeah. Let me just now. So if I do this again, yeah. So this is the response I'm basically expecting. Just to put it in a JSON format. I'm not using Postman right now because I wanted you guys to see the other possibilities as well. So I'll be switching back to Postman later on. But currently I'm not using Postman. So that is a successful login. Uh, if I want to test for logout, uh, let me just check for validate. I'm not sure whether it's working. Like I said, I've not like really checked. So query parameter, it's also a post. Query parameters, header. So I go to header, add content type. So authorization. I have to provide this. Oh shit! To write better. Also note that this is the first time I'm using this test client. Uh, wow, I don't know whether it's this one. Okay, I'm not sure. Content type applications/json. I think that's all. Let me run this and see if it works. Internal server error. What's missing? Get user by ID is missing a potential argument. Wow, 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 wow. So this is missing a potential argument. I don't know whether what I was really trying to do. Yeah. Oh yes, I did now. Just converting into integer, then 3. Wow, wow. This is crazy. So get user by ID requires an ID definitely, but then in my case I did not provide that. So it would be totally unfit for me to do this. Maybe the best way for me, if I could have definitely just returned what is actually missing here. So this would definitely work best if I have it here. So yeah, but right now this might not be able to work because I'm not like really returning anything from the author required from this decorator. So this decorator is not returning anything so far. Please understand that when I was doing this, I didn't like really know of anything to do. I didn't like really know. But anyway, an ideal scenario would be if I would just go ahead. Let me just check this. If I would just go ahead and take this ID number, then provide it here. Let me see what would have happened. Wow, okay, fine. So this is basically what I expect. message is valid, so this user is valid, ID number is equals to this, then the admin is equals to admin name, the name is equals to the admin, and etc. So that is basically what I expected, but unfortunately I've just noticed like I left a lot of things not taken care of. Then now I can actually sign out. Now that I've already built my header parameters and etc, all I need to come here and do is to sign out. So if I sign out, logged out successfully, so this is the token which has now been logged out. If I test validate again, I'm not sure whether it will work. If I take validate again, you are not authorized to do this. I think the best way to do this, it means that probably is if I say that this token has already been logged out, so maybe that is the best way to do this. But anyway, so yeah, I think that will be the best way. So not just a matter of you're not authorized to do this. The best way would be to say like you've already logged out, and there's no point of having this back and forth thing of issues. So yeah, basically that's what I did in the authentication. My next steps would be trying to dig much and refine everything and work with you know anything next, writing test and anything. Just make sure that you watch out for my next tutorial, as I'll be doing something quite wonderful on this. Guys, please make sure that in case you have not subscribed to this YouTube channel, subscribe so that at least you get more updates on how our Medicare app is going on. Thank you guys and have a good day.